Hello.
Hi.
So this is Georgia Nicolau. I'm speaking from Brazil, actually, São Paulo, Brazil. And I'm here with Alessandra Schmidt. She's also Brazilian, but she's in Barcelona. And hi, Alessandra, how are you?
Hello. Good to see you, finally.
Yes, me too. So we are here. Thank you, Republica, for inviting us. We are here to discuss a bit about citizen innovation, bottom-up innovation, and what is there for the future that we can start building already now. And actually, we are already building. And so I will start by asking Alessandra to introduce herself and also tell a bit where she's working, which is Fablab Barcelona. So hi, Alessandra, can you tell us a bit about who are you and what do you do?
Well, I'm based in Barcelona. I'm originally from Brazil, as you mentioned. I see myself as a social scientist. I've been working with action research, and for me, this is crucial when we are talking about research and bottom-up initiatives. We are producing knowledge with the community and grassroots and not for them. And this is something that I identify quickly once I've met with the Maker movement and the Fablabs. I work in Fablab Barcelona, and we were the first Fablab in Europe. And the movement is basically all about working from the bottom up and with the local communities. So when we are talking about circular makerspaces, these places aim to enable processes in which you will interact with the local community and also understand the materials that you have locally and the processes that you can advance to shape and co-design and co-create these emerging futures. So we know about all the problems that we've been facing. They are basically connected with the way we produce and consume things and the way we live in cities. These models of organizing the society that are more connected to a linear way rather than a circular way, which would be more related to understanding local resources, understanding that you would be engaging with the processes locally, even though you have the capability and the possibility of sharing the bits. So you share the knowledge because you have access to internet, and that enables the communities to interact at scale, but it will not be the same for materials, for instance. So we are used to ship things around. If I'm not mistaken, I've heard that 1/5 of the GDP of the world is being shipped around in containers, and there must be something wrong about it. So how do we want to be sustainable if we are shipping things around like avocados from Africa to the Netherlands? It has some side effects because we are not using renewable energy power for many of the transportation, for instance. So just to open up the discussion. So I would say that this is super crucial for us here in Fablab Barcelona and also in the network from the Makerspaces, how you investigate new ways and prototype ideas for emerging futures. Well, this is a bit about me, but maybe more about what I think and what we've been doing. So,
and so I'll present myself, and then I have a lot of questions already. So really nice to meet you, Alessandra, and it's funny that we've never heard from each other, so it's really thanks Republica for bringing us closer. So my name is Georgia. I have a background in communications. I was a long time ago. I began my career as a journalist, but I'm also have been always a cultural producer and also cultural manager, or working with open knowledge and having part of a number of initiatives that always valued collective action, social change, being through culture and arts, open knowledge, Creative Commons, digital culture, and free software movement, and and then also I have spent some time working in policy. So I was director of creative economy of the Ministry of Culture of Brazil when we had a Ministry of Culture. So it's also been a while. And since 2016, when I came back from Brasilia, where I was working for the government, I co-founded Instituto Procomum. And Instituto Procomum is a non-profit organization, and it was created really, in questioning ourselves, what's the role of civil society in shaping the future we want to see, and what's the format, so not only content, but also what's the format of a civil society organization that can respond to the challenges and the way the fast-paced society we are living in. So how do you create a solid organization, but that it also adapts and create, how do you create a networked community-based, let's say, organization that is also looking at new ways of producing value. And so we have a number of projects. We like to say that we are a commons-based organization, and this is why we put the commons in at the heart of our not only reflection but also action. And what's the commons? I can speak a bit more later, but we see the commons as a lens. So there's a nice guy that we like. He says that there's no commons without commoning, David Bollier. And so commons brings this sense of practice that you have to be connected to the nature and to the people around you, and really conscious of what the food you eat or what you're producing, and everything is connected. And commons as a concept is also connected to everything that is in between the state and the market, right? So at some point in our lives, we were taught that we either privatize things or we put into the hands of the state. And we do know that there's several problems with this duality. So what's in between? For example, the knowledge, when we speak about open source and open knowledge, we're speaking about commons. So which is something that it's about not only some owned, but it's owned by everybody in the sense. But we have also, but it's not. There is no rules. You have rules, of course, but what rules are that? How do we shape them, and how do we let's say revisit them? How we keep shaping the rules so they're not something that doesn't change with us. So I think it's a long way, but I mean we have a lot of projects that maybe can bring more practicalities into what I'm trying to say, but just a general intro. So this is, and why do I do what I do? It's because I really believe that, that what we are doing, when I enter the lab, we have a space, which we also have a makerspace inside, which is, we call it a citizen innovation lab. So it's the Lab Procomum. It's a 1,200 square meter space. And it's there where we practice the future we want to see, but right now. So we really believe that, changes begin by, this prefigurative politics that the change begin by right now, and let's do it, and in several ways. So yeah, and so just to throw back to you, I was really curious about your intro, and so I have like two questions. So one is more personal, is why you ended up doing what you do, because you said, I mean, everything that you said was so nice about doing with the communities and really trying to change things from really the economic perspective. And so how did you end up there? And like personally, what drove you? And then if you could already tell us a bit, I mean, there's some critics about, the Fablabs and the Makerspace about the use of plastic and how it really popularized with 3D printing. And I think a lot has changed And I would be really curious if you could also tell a bit, how are you seeing this now in terms, I mean, of course, the Fablab and a Makerspace is not only a 3D printing like Yoda things. So how do you deal with that in the sense of, what's the, and also how do you see if the fourth revolution actually is happening, as people like 10 years ago we were speaking about it, right? So just, provocations. You don't have to answer all of them, but just for you then ready to speak about the projects that you're running.
Perfect. Thank you for the questions. They are questions that I do for myself as well. The first one, maybe I shouldn't reply this in a linear way if I'm talking about circularity. So I will start from the end and maybe make some circles in the answer. I think the fourth revolution should exist and should happen soon, if not already. If it's not already there, I think we are on the way, and it's because basically I think the internet and how now you can connect with different people and produce and share knowledge and think differently. I would say if we human beings are clever enough to use these tools that we have to organize ourselves in a different way, to try to understand the structure, as you mentioned, how we would like the society to function in a more symmetric way, considering that if you have internet, it doesn't mean that everybody has access to it. So if we are talking about the digitalization of production and the access to digital and to this type new ways of production, and so who has access to this? Who has access to data? Who has the power to actually visualize the data and take decisions that are for the collective and not only driven by some powerful bodies that have the means for that. So I'm maybe replying more in abstraction, but I think the fourth revolution is already on the way, and we should try to shape and co-design this with civil society, and not only allow the big players to play the game. So that would be the paradigm shift that we are trying to embrace when we are part of communities as Fablab. So of course we have a lot to advance and to rethink and to do better. But I think that's the core of the movement. It's a community-based process, and I think it changes it all, because if you are putting people in the center, as you mentioned, and if you are allowing them the means to get there, then you have more distributed processes. You distribute power, you distribute learning, you distribute access to participate in this transformation. So in the core of this movement, I would say Fablab's Makerspaces, Hackerspaces, I think you have the community, and the community has the power to shape itself how we think is the best way. So I would say that, for instance, some side effects of Fablabs and other movements, and regarding the question that you made related to plastics, we should definitely acknowledge the work of precious plastics around it. So another community which somehow people from the Fablabs, they also participate in this other movement. So precious plastics brings tools, different narratives, access to people who is already working with the mentality around plastics, and how you have new machines that you can customize and recycle, reuse plastics, and then afterwards you can like put the plastic, after you recycle it, you put it back to the 3D printer. So I would say it is still like in early stages. Of course, the amount of plastics that we have, not only from Fablabs, but 3D printing is a machine that went to mainstream. So a range of organizations are using it. And if you're not embedded with the concept of what does it mean to be part of this movement and the values of that, then you will have side effects of using the machine, because it's just a tool. And it's not about the tool, it's not about the machines. We say it often, it's about the people and how these people are going to use and change their realities if they have access to that. And this is something that at least from like a micro scale, and here in Fablab Barcelona, we've been discussing a lot because of European research projects that we have, because this is inside of the mindset that we have here, and how we can have a makerspace, a Fablab that is actually circular, because we are not. And there is the beauty of that. How can you actually bring solutions for your own problems, and how do you change the way you work internally, and how do you share this knowledge that is created by doing? So you learn by doing, you prototype and you hands-on stuff, then you share, because you have in the mentality of the Fab Labs, of the maker movement people, documentation, because you do documentation so you can share with other people. So I would say that we are doing this actually specifically for the plastic issue. We are right now advancing a campaign that started from the team on how we will recycle the plastic, how we will have this station to collect the plastic, and how this will function internally, so we can then have, at least in terms of plastic, a circular process or one or two circular processes internally. So I think this is a way to go. I like a lot the work of Cindy Kotala, who has been investigating the movement for a long time. She has this book that is called Making Sustainability. So there she explains how often the Fab Labs are not open doors, but somehow how can the user of a Fab Lab be an actor and an agent to actually open the door and actually do processes that fabricate resilience and put people at the center. So I would say that we have the means and we have the space, and the power is distributed so you can advance towards that aim. Otherwise, I think many of the people that are around in the movement, they will not be part of it. I see a lot of rebels and revolutionaries, and I learn with them every day. And that's why I decided to be here. So closing the loop, I started my formation formally, let's say, because I think everything is a background culture, especially, and I hope we can learn from our own culture to shape our values. But I decided I used to be a dancer, and then I decided, no, I don't want to be a dancer because I like this for fun. I'm not that good, so I will do something else. And I don't know why, maybe because of government failures, as you said. And I thought that market was a bit more coherent because I was so naive. Then I decided to do business. I went to an university, I learned about it. And from the day one, my dream fell apart because I never heard anything about sustainability that met my principles. So that's how I started to suffer every day going to school. I was younger. I think I'm still young, but I thought that was not enough. And I don't believe that the business should work the way they do. So economy at the center, if you are not inside a society and inside environment, and if you don't respect these boundaries, then you shouldn't exist. That's my way of being a rebel and a revolutionary person. Maybe that's not a lot, but this is how I learned sustainability should work. So economy should respect these boundaries, and if it's not sustainable, if it's not addressing society issues and respecting environment, shouldn't exist. Simple as that. And I think it's an hypocrisy to work in a company that doesn't meet these issues, these elementary principles, and then you get out of that, you take the head of the company and you think, no, I'm fine. Now I can be sustainable because I will recycle my own plastic. It's not only about the plastic, it's about who produces the plastic and why do we use so much plastic in the end. So I will stop and give it back to you so we can continue the conversation.
Oh, so many doors to discuss. I don't know how we're going to make it into 30 minutes, but are you looking at the time now? Because I'm looking also, but if you're also looking, then... Okay, so, wow, what a nice story. So nice to meet you more now. And yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned about this perspective of economic, and hopefully soon enough, before the end of humanity, this point of view of economics won't be revolutionary anymore, but will be mainstream, right? And we won't be talking about alternative economics anymore, because every time we speak about alternative economics, it means that we are not mainstream, and this should be such basic, such basic mainstream. Like, economics about people, and it's about the planet we're living in, and not the opposite around. And it's funny that you mention it, because just last weeks actually, I'm doing I was chosen for a fellowship on economic and social equity at the London School of Economics, and because we can't travel, was online, but it was so it was interactive online, and I had classes with Katie Rayworth about the Donald's economy. And it's really what she proposes, not what you say. It's actually what she proposes, so the Donald's economy. But I also had classes with Jason Nicolau, who is also discussing degrowth economy, etc. And there's one thing that I think that we sometimes, I don't see that often said, or at least maybe it's me that I'm not seeing. It's that, I mean, of course, it's really nice it's a privilege to actually work with something that we believe. And I think that both of us, we pursued this place, and we worked to it. But it's also a fact that it's not about only an individual choice, like the production of plastic and the climate change and the environmental tragedy that we're living. It's mostly because of nations, and it's mostly because of wealthy nations. So Jason Hico actually showed us a graphic, and if the wealthiest nations stop consuming so much, we wouldn't be here, right? We wouldn't happen. So even if you go to this. There's this website of the Leeds University. They made Donald's economy for each country, so you can actually put your country and compare how the country is doing about the ecosystem and about social needs, right? So roughly that's how Donald's economy function, right? So it's social here, and then the ecosystem, the environmental. And if you look at the what they call global south, which is actually us, you see that most of us, we haven't reached the problem about ecosystem, the environmental, but we don't have the social needs. So Germany, it's almost like both full. They have all the social needs, but they exploded like every measurement of environmental issues. So it's really interesting, this perspective, because if you look at it on this way, which is circular, we actually don't have developed economies or less developed. Nobody has reached the level it should, if we think about social and environmental together, right? So it's not about GDP anymore. But this is a long discussion, but I just thought it was really a big coincidence that you brought this up, and I had these discussions with my fellows last week. And I think it's about, I mean, for me, what a big, I don't know. So Procomum works in 3 axes. The first one is experimental. So how do we try out and prototype the solutions from a citizen innovation perspective? So one of them is the lab is actually the kind of the place where we're experimenting. So let's do it, and then we see, and then we document it, and we share it, and we turn this into knowledge and methodology and open. So let's do it. So we work with communities of practice that goes from critical consumption to zero waste to feminist, LGBTQI plus, medicinal plants, solidarity economy, makerspace, hackerspace. So it's really technology and prototyping in a really broad life perspective. And then our second axis is really about free education, so open knowledge, knowledge exchange, critical appropriation of content, and knowledge sharing. And we have open school. So the name is Colaboradora, which is actually friends with Colaboradora from Spain in Zaragoza, who are our partners. So Colaboradora is a free school for artists and social entrepreneurs. And it's also a network, so people, they exchange in a time bank, but they also have critical appropriation of technologies methods. So like theory of change, like we are not against anything. Let's bring them all, all the business that you learned. Some of them are quite important if we apply and do it with, and actually adapt, and made it as a critical appropriation of technology and of concepts that can be used. So I have this video that from the Colaboradora for social entrepreneurs, that one of the persons, Luciana, she actually cries when she speaks about theory of change. And for me, I have been always so prejudiced about this business canvas, I would listen to it. It's like, oh my God, not again. These people think that business canvas is going to change the world. Fuck it. It's just a fucking framework. Sorry for the palavrão, gente. But she actually cries because the theory of change for her actually brought she got to know her value better. So that's exactly what you said. So it's not about technology, it's about how do we use them, right? And in this sense, almost all technologies are welcome if you actually have a political and a social layer, that you have a contextual layer. So only technology is like what you called in Brazil a very important guy for the digital culture in Brazil, that is already dead. He used to say that tecnologia é mato. So technology is grass. It's just there. So what do you do with that? So and the third axis of action of Procomum is narrative, right? So how do we shape this new paradigm? So in the end, it's also a dispute of epistemologies. So that's why names are so important. How do we call things? And this is why, when we speak about commons, which is a really used concept also in the North, of course, and we have a lot of dialogue with the North. But it's also about buen vivir, which is good living, which is a concept that is being not only invented, but have been being practiced by the indigenous cultures in Latin America since way before the Europeans arrived here. And buen vivir, which is good living, is nothing to do about consumption. So to have a good life is not about being in a bathtub with a champagne. It could be, but it's not about that. It's about buen vivir. It's about, this feeling that your life is worth and that you integrate it circularly with the nature, with your community, and yet you're creating value that actually makes sense for you and for your ecosystem. So I was listening to this indigenous leader this week in a podcast. He lives in Pantanal, which is now in the biggest disappearance of all times. And he was actually saying that it's not that they lost their food. They lost everything, because for them it's the same thing. There's no separation, So because of he was saying that all the animals, they were all burned out. And he was saying it's not only about, that I don't have anything to eat. It's also about that. But it's about I lost everything, because there's all this other indigenous leader. He says, Krutung. He's in a video that we made from the series of Lands of the Commons. And he said that the commons phrase is actually his land. So where he was born tells who he is. If you take the land, if you take their territory, then there's no life left, So just reacting to what you said, and I think there's a lot of nice commonalities from what we are pursuing from different perspectives. And maybe for me to throw back to you, would be really nice, I think, to share some practical examples. So if you could choose one or two of the projects that you really like that relate to what we were just saying, I think it would be nice to actually, explain how does your vision is turning into projects.
Thank you for your comment. I will address the reaction you are sending me. So from our end, I would say we are having the opportunity now. Maybe we are reinventing and being creative on how we share knowledge in a distributed way. So that is something that has already been happening for a while in the Fab Academy educational program, in which you have the global actors sharing knowledge, and it's related to MIT and the father of the Fablabs and Neil, but also the global actors and local actors together, understanding how distributed learning happens. And in this frameworks, the project that is called Distributed Design, distributeddesign.eu, it's a project that starts trying to understand what are the values behind this type of distributed efforts that are, well, and all the production that we have is under Creative Commons. It's a project that it's supposed to showcase ideas, prototypes, and projects that encourage other people to pursue the same path. So we have a few members. Currently, Republica is one of the members of the network, and we have moments in which we engage globally. For instance, for the Distributed Design Summer School, the Distributed Design Awards, that are global activities that are actually happening right now this month, and also connecting with the local actors. So which are the people that we can identify that are doing nice stuff, that we want to connect them with the market, and then you start like as a driven force to enable at least the space in which a dialogue around this concept can happen. So the concept of doing stuff in a distributed way, ecosystemic, being regenerative, thinking about being regenerative, being open, and being collaborative. This is a project that I would mention. And the other one, which connects with the idea of food citizenship that you also mentioned before. Food. It's Food 2030. It's a new research project that we are engaged in, and we have a pilot here in Barcelona and also other pilots that are part of the consortium. And it's all about how we can produce the food that we need that is more plant-based, that it's closer to the consumer. So you also address some of the new concept of prosumers. So you have the people that understand where the food comes from, what is the supply chain of food, how you can engage with that and feel more connected with the food that you eat. And this is a movement that will advance for the next 4 years in a concrete project, which aims to have this food shift in the way we produce and consume the foods in regions, and also being the more open in recognizing the work of those who has already been working with that. Barcelona, in this matter, will be the capital alimentaria for the sustainable food capital for the next year, and then we would like to really make use of this momentum to create a dialogue, and not only to position, for instance, our labs as a circular makerspace in relation to plastic, but also how we correlate the stuff that we are doing with tech and food. And then this connects with the idea of many of the, let's say, we call it the strategic areas, but how we understand materials in the context of sustainability and circularity, education and future learning, distributed design, productive cities, and how we would like to engage with these terminologies in a way that you can put in practice this through the education or research programs that we have in-house. So we recently launched a new website with a lot of nice and new and fresh content. So I invite you all to...
You want to show us a bit?
Yeah, of course. It will be my pleasure, actually. So let me share my screen. Okay, here it is. Oh, so let's start with the team. These are the people behind Fablab Barcelona. It's a super pleasure. We are a 30+ team. A bit of our story, that founded the movement about the Fablab network and the distribution around the world. So we have nearly 2,000 Fablabs that are spaces that have similar constitution and machines, so you can prototype stuff. The Fab City Global Initiative is also an umbrella for the context in which we would like to advance the idea of locally productive, globally connected cities in which you share bits and not the atoms. So the atoms stay locally in a circular model. This is the space in which we work, Valdara, and also the space in Popleno. And the strategic areas that I was mentioning. So we work with civic ecology, distributed design, emerging futures, future learning, sense making, productive cities, material and textiles. And for each of these projects, of these areas, we have a few projects. And the idea is that we can, as much as possible, contribute to rethink the way we live, we work and play in cities. So it's supposedly something that it's to be fun as well, right? So while we work, we also have fun. And here about the project, so you can take a look, navigate around. This was made with a lot of love with an internal communication team that we have that is called Happiness Unit, the way we call them. So that's it. It will be very nice to get to know you better and share more about how we can better collaborate and contribute with the local efforts and learn, especially from the experiences that you have been advancing. When the pandemic ends, feel free to come for a visit, but until then...
I would love it, yeah. You too. I mean, it would be lovely to, I don't know, there's so many similarities. I just want to show you something that it looks like a bit about what you were saying. Let me see. Yeah. But no, it's not this one. Here. So so this is a bit how we see commons, right? So protocols, community, and of the values that we use and that we practice. So caring, gift, technology, abundance, bem viver, knowledge, collaboration. And then we see commons as a political process that calls for actions beyond the stereotype practice of the market and the modern state. But this is what I wanted to show you. So this is like the basis of our methodology for local action. That is in our website. We have a few methodologies in the website. So methodology Marau, it's activating local networks methodology. So this is our values that from the methodology. So storytelling, territorial decentralization, citizen innovation, collaboration, open and free knowledge, and then gender and racial diversity. So this is just some just to see, and this is our website. Oh no, but this one is not. This is changed. So the actual one is labi.procomum.org. So just so people can also access. And yeah, and it was a pleasure to know you. I think we ran out of time, but we can check this later. But it was amazing to talk to you, and I thank you, Republica, for giving the opportunity to learn more about your work and about Fablabs, of course, but also about your views. So nice, and looking forward to discuss more and do more things together. Thank you, and talk to you soon.
I hope so. Nice to meet you. Bye-bye.
Bye.